Hi, Joe Cerrone.
And Al Rosen.
Welcome to CAD-116 Basic AutoCAD in our weekly Zoom classroom meeting. Alrighty, so as we take a look at the main splash page, we're holding our Zoom classroom meeting. It's always the same link on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. We put an announcement about Learning Day. And then Module 4 has been released. And Module 4 goes through this general design project using polylines and OSNAPs. And then we have a mechanical or an architectural print that the students can choose from. Bonus project would be this mechanical drawing exercise. And so as we look at the outline of topics under content, just to stay on task, it's located here as outline of topics. And what we've done is we've updated just to make sure that we stay on task with the dates. And so today is October 10th. We're covering Module 4. And so remember, the drawing assignments are in green, quizzes are in red, and the reading assignments are in blue. And so our reading assignment is Chapter 8 and Chapter 9 from our textbook, AutoCAD Instructor 2023. Back to the table of contents. Module 4, and we're going to view this as a student. All right, so our videos are placed in the drawing here as well. We go through the open-ended questions prior to the recording, so students that attend online can get questions answered, and we encourage you to do that. The course is set up that you can put something in the Dropbox, we can share files, and we can diagnose problems that you may have, because for Ellen and I to fix it might only take a few minutes, but to go through all of the other ways to fix it could take you a while. And so remember that if you do want some extra support, you can always email us and place the file into an email or something like that, and then we can share the file and work on it. All right, so as we look at the chapter objectives, we're looking at being able to work with object snap and object snap tracking, and we're looking at draw commands. And we have videos made for the course, and so rather than go through all that, I can point you to the direction of the videos. And so the videos are located up here at the top, showing us the information out. Polylines, here's our object snap video, and here's our mechanical design video. And I think we have another one for the architectural one that I'll make sure that gets added into it. When we look at the polyline video, the polyline drawing is it's an unusual drawing because it's not a mechanical or an architectural type drawing. It's got these bar charts here, or maybe it's actually a spline, and it's just an XY coordinate system. And then we have like this campus lake, which is made with the sketch commands. And then we've got these polygon shapes that we can then analyze to do some math for us, like calculate the areas and perimeters. And so students are to download the polyline drawing and open it. And you might be, hey, it's done. Well, to a certain extent it is, but to be able to teach how to create this, it's easier to go with a template. And so we use this as a template, and the video will walk you through that. If I turn on the grid and the snap, I can then go and take a look at it. And so essentially this is what's called a polyline. And polylines are closed boundary shapes that we can analyze quickly. And so one of the things that we can do with a polyline is we can go through and we could measure the area of it. And so if we say polyline area, we can either trace around the shape of it, which works really good for stuff that is square or has straight lines. But when you get into rounded shapes, it's more difficult. So I'm in the area command, and I'm using OSNAP to snap to the edges of the vertices to define the boundary. And then I can hit enter, and it will calculate it. So it gives me the area at 1.25 units. and the perimeter at 6 units. And so you say, well, what units are that? We'll type in units and we can see that it's set up in decimal units. All right. And then when we get into other shapes, like working with these other shapes, one of the things that we wanted to show was that we can, and what we want to do here is we want to copy this to above it in the video, and then we can calculate it. Let me use the copy command. And so I'll copy this. And I can copy this over here as well a couple other times. But the idea behind the polyline exercise is to be able to change some of these. And so we calculated out the area for this, and we'll put that area and perimeter on the drawing like it says in the video. And so again, I can say area, and I like to type the commands instead of pulling them off the menu all the time because it's just faster. And if I say object, I can then choose the object, and it tells me the area is 1.25 in the perimeter. And what I like to do is just copy and paste that in. And so if I hit enter and then I hit the F2 key, I can just go and copy that from the history file. And so that's the F2 key. And so I'll Control C, and then I'll say Control V, and I'll paste that in the drawing. It's kind of big, and so I'll scale it. And so we can come back over here and we can get the scale command. And so I'll go to scale. And I'll just say 0.25, make it 1/4 of an inch smaller. Still a little bit big, but I think we get the idea. And then it's on the text layer. If I want to darken that up, I can use a little bit darker and then hit escape. And so AutoCAD does a great job of being able to calculate out areas. And it's really good when we get into something like a boundary shape, like a floor plan or something where we're buying carpet or measuring out the square footage of a machine shop or something like that. And then when we use these other commands, like we can apply a chamfer to a polyline. And so what we can do is we can use the chamfer command. And the way the commands are set up is that like commands are grouped. And so they don't just put them all on the icon screens. You have to kind of know where they're at. And that's why I type in commands. And so fillet and chamfer work very similarly. And so they're grouped. The difference is one is a straight line at an angle and the other is a radial line. And so when we go into the chamfer command, what we want to do is use the distance option to check the distance. And so it says it's an 1/8 of an inch chamfer, and we will set it for that. So we'll say 1/8, 1/8. And then it has another option where we could say polyline and then just select the polyline, and it'll do all of the vertices at once, which is great. And then when we measure, we'll see when we measure the area this time that it will calculate it with the chamfers. And so we don't have to go get our math book out and figure out how the triangle area of each of these corners is and then subtract it all out. No, it calculates it out in seconds. And so we can get that information. And then again, I can come back into my flip screen, which is F2, and I can copy and paste that. So it'll probably be really big again because my text settings are kind of big in here, but we'll go through that at a later time, and I'll drop that. And then I can go and put that on a different color so it's a little bit more readable. It's still a little bit big, but in the sake of time for the video, I think we'll work with the size that it's at. And so that's how these top exercises work. They're just polyline exercises. And then as we go through and we work with the lake and the other area, I'll refer to the video and how we use the sketch command. But the beauty of using polylines is that you can go into isometric view and you can model them. And so as 3D printing becomes more and more mainstream, polylines or closed boundary shapes are super important because we can extrude those or press pull them and start to model things. And so as we create these different shapes, and let's say I needed a new knob for a machine that broke the knob for whatever reason. If I come here into a conceptual view and I press pull that, I can pull that into a knob. And if I had a hole in the center of it, I could even save myself a little bit of time by creating some kind of let's just make a circle. And then if I press pull, the nice thing about press pull is that it senses the boundary shapes and then it'll create that. And so that's one of the reasons that we like to use polylines, is because it leads us into some of the modeling applications. And that's something for 117 or intermediate AutoCAD. Back to the top view. So here's our polyline exercise. If we go into D2L and take a look, there's a polyline video right here for the instructions that you can click on. And we can play that. Hi, Joe Cerrone. Today we're going to take a look at Module 4 in our general. And so we'll go through our general design project here. And that's just what it is. It's a general design project that walks you through how to create them. And you can see I'm calculating out the areas. So the videos are there because it's easier to learn by video than it is to read the textbook. And the way things are today, we're doing everything we can to kind of make the transition into the video aspects of it. OSNAP is similar. Okay, you can download the OSNAP drawing and open that. And as we work with OSNAPs, what we want to be able to do is to be able to work with construction techniques. Like, for example, if we wanted to draw a line from the center to a perpendicular point, we could say, and let's make this a darker color. We could say line, and then depending on how my OSNAP settings are, I can either filter it just on just the ones I want by saying clear all and say center and perpendicular and okay it. And then when it has the running object snaps on, and they call them running object snaps because when they are checked off, when it's near a perpendicular mark, you'll get a glyph like this. And what was a glyph? It's a hieroglyphic. It's an image that tells you how it's going to acquire the geometry. So I say line, and then if I swipe or hover, you can see it acquires the line. You don't go here. Well, I guess you can now. Sometimes they update them. And prior to that, you had to actually touch the line geometry, but now it senses the center. And then when I come here, it also senses the perpendicular, and that's the glyph. And so object snaps will allow us to create these geometrical relations. And so, for example, I can draw a line, and here's an override. If I hold the shift key and right mouse click, I get all the O snaps, and I can say midpoint, and then I can say tangent. That was shift right mouse click to bring that menu up. And then I can create those constructions. And same thing with this, except rather than to go through and shift right mouse click, I can set it up for endpoint. I could set it up for intersection. I could set it up for quadrant. And then I can say, okay. And then as I walk through the OSNAP exercise, and I forget which one was which, but I'm pretty close. Intersection. I can create the geometry for that. And same thing with the tangents. Okay, if I shift right mouse click, I can say tangent. And so the idea is to build up your skills to be able to create these geometrical relations using what's called object snaps. And object snaps allow us to grab things like tangency points. Without having to do the actual calculations of creating a line with a center point and then a perpendicularity relationship. This one's probably the hardest. I would check the video for it. You'll need to use the extend option just as a quick help for those people who are here. If we go here into our object snap settings and have extension enabled, and so these start to work together. You want extension and apparent intersection for that one to work. And these are just like I see textbook, construction techniques that were trained by Autodesk. But Once you have the extension and you have the running objects set, you can actually go here and you can kind of track these out. Once you hover over them, then you can acquire, track like that. And so it's a technique. If you like Xbox, you probably could work with this a little quicker, but if you're not, then it's a technique using the apparent intersection and extension OSNAPs. All right, back to the module 4. As we look at the exercises, we have a mechanical exercises, and this is straight from the end of the chapter. Here's a bonus mechanical exercise, and here's our architectural drawing. Here's the Polyline video, the OSNAP PDF, and we're working on these. We understand sometimes, there's little glitches in here. If you do see a glitch or something, let us know. Looks like my internet's a little bit slow, but we'll get, I'm sure, as we go through. And so we'll create these different drawings. What's required is the polyline drawing and the OSNAP, and then one, either the mechanical or the architectural drawing. If we take a look at those drawings in our CAD system, here is my architectural drawing, and I can go through and I can place it onto a title block and detail that. I have my OSNAP drawing, and then I have my mechanical drawings. All right. We've created videos for those. If you'd like to do the extra credit assignments, here's the files and the PowerPoint information for the chapter. We go back to the old AutoCAD. Let's go back to our main splash page. All righty. Al, is there anything else that we want to touch base on before I end the recording and open things up for discussion?
No, not at all. Hopefully they're putting their grades in and just looking at them. And that's about it.
That's right. All right. So I'm going to stop the recording and we'll open things up for questions.